So today in this full guide, I'm going to be walking you through the full process of getting work experience, showing you some examples of how you can get work experience at JLR, Bentley, KPMG and PWC, and then you'll be able to use that process on whatever companies you want, regardless of whatever industry you're interested in. And then after that, I'll show you what to do on your work experience placement, and then I'll show you how to use these work experience placements in your CVs and in your interviews, which will hopefully help you to get the apprenticeship that you want to get. So the first question is, do you need work experience? I see that question getting asked a lot at assessment centres and online, people asking if you need work experience for degree apprenticeship. And the answer is no, you don't need work experience. Since COVID, a lot of employers have been very relaxed about work experience because they understood that not many people could get work experience due to COVID in 2020 and 2021. However, now that we're in 2023, it's much easier to get work experience now that everything's reopened again. So although it's not required, it's definitely something that would really help your application, especially considering how competitive apprenticeships are. In interviews, there are questions such as, tell me about a time you worked as a team, tell me about a time when you were a leader, tell me about a time when you had to solve a problem. And for me, about half of those answers I got from work experience I'd done. So it's really important and gives you lots of good examples of where you've worked well that you can use in an interview. So there's 4 different ways of getting work experience. There's the conventional one, and then there's 3 more, which hopefully you'll be able to use to get work experience that will help you get your degree apprenticeship. Step 1, conventional programs. So the conventional way of getting work experience is going to the website and applying, which is what I'm going to show you now. Okay, so finding official work experience programs is really easy. All you have to do is search in the company name into Google and then work experience. So for example, if you were interested in accounting and banking, that sort of thing, you could search in KPMG work experience, for example, and usually it will just be the first link. So if we look at work experience program, and then you can see these are the 5 programs they do. So if we go on discovery work experience, which is the main one, you can see here that these are the dates they do during October half term, and it looks like applications haven't opened yet, but you can sign up there and that will be like a mailing list and they'll email you when it opens, and those are the entry requirements. So straight away there's KPMG work experience for you. Another one we could search for is PWC work experience. And then again, it would usually just be the first link. So PWC applications will open in the new year, take place in Belfast and Manchester. And there's the eligibility. So again, straight away, you can write that on your notes or write on a piece of paper, write in an Excel spreadsheet that you need to come back to this page at the start of 2024 to do that. What else is there? So let's check this. Okay, so here's an important thing to note. It's not internships. Internships are not what we're looking for. And we're not looking for industrial placements either. So internships and industrial placements, they're to do with university, when people take a year out of university or a summer out of university. What we're looking for is just work experience programs. So that's where you'd click on there, find out more and look for what they have available. And for example, if I do Deutsche Bank work experience, and then insight programs. So if we go UK and Ireland, you can see that it looks like first year students. So again, that's a university thing. So that's just something you have to check. With companies, you have to check that it's just a work experience placement, for example, like this, or work experience like this, which is for year 12s, or work experience like this for year 13s and all that sort of thing. You just have to make sure that it's a work experience like that, as opposed to an industrial placement or an internship or something that's for first year students. But that's how you do it. Just search up all your companies in your industry, search up that company and work experience, and basically make a list of all the ones you can do, and then write down the dates when you need to apply, and then apply for those. Bear in mind they'll be very competitive, and also because they are official programs, they probably only run once a year, so that's something to bear in mind. Step 2, virtual programs. If a conventional program isn't going to work for you, either because you didn't get the place because it was too oversubscribed, or it's too many months away and you need work experience sooner, then the next option is virtual work experience. And I'm just going to hop on the computer and show you 2 websites that will be able to get you great work experience with massive companies. Okay, so once you're on a computer, what you want to search is SpringPod, and then straight away come onto here. So SpringPod is a virtual work experience platform where they have all sorts of virtual work experience. So if you click on Find Work Experience, straight away come to here. Now you want to close the on-demand, just clear all of that, and you want to filter type. You want cohorts, because the on-demand ones, they're not the good ones usually, they're just generic. And if you can get work experience with a company, then you're much better off and it'll be much more valuable. So tick cohort, and that means usually you're going to get the company ones. And then go to job sector, yeah, and then here's where you can pick whatever sector you want. So for example, I'll start off with engineering, and then you come down here, and then straight away you can see you've got 5 ones here, and especially these 3 are very good. You've got Atkins, Siemens, and Airbus work experience. So if you're interested in aerospace, aeronautical engineering, doing this Airbus work experience is an absolute no-brainer. You'll learn all sorts of things about Airbus the company, which will be useful for your applications. You'll learn so much about the industry, which will be useful not just for an application to Airbus, but an application to other companies such as Rolls-Royce. So yeah, straight away here, just in the engineering field, straight away right now, you can click on Airbus, Atkins, Siemens, and apply right now. They have dates. For example, this one, 23rd October to 3rd November. Application deadline is the 18th. So to apply now, you need to create an account and then just go through a form answering a couple of questions. And straight away, you can get work experience with massive companies like Airbus. Now, the second platform to use on top of SpringPod is Speakers for Schools. So if you search that in, and then just go onto the home page, straight away again you're just going to have access to all sorts of work experience with massive companies. So if you come here, this is basically a list of all the work experience, and it's a huge, straight away there you can see PWC, you can see Tata, Virgin Atlantic, NHS. And if you want to look for industry, you can click on industry part here. So let's start off with automotive, for example. Some of the programs on here are just one-day virtual things, maybe an afternoon or a morning, just a presentation of something like a masterclass like this, for example, or just an insight day to learn about the company, and they are good. But then even better than that is if you find something like this on the right here, which is a 5-day work experience with Bentley. All you do is you press apply here, and then fill in an application form, answer a few questions, and then you'll find out if you've got the work experience. So straight away, right now, actionable step is to click off this video, search up SpringPod, search up Speakers for Schools, and see what there is at the moment, and see what you can apply for. For example, what other industries could we do? Computing and IT. Yeah, all sorts here. Tata. You could, if you're interested in cybersecurity, then there's a cybersecurity day here with Kanos. Again, there's another Bentley one. But just keep checking back here and see what you can get. There's Amy have done one on here as well. So there's all sorts you can get started with. So yeah, that's it. Speakers for School and SpringPod are the 2 places to get virtual work experience programs. Step 3, cold outreach. Those first 2 steps are limited because you're relying on either a company running an official work experience program, or you're relying on them having made a virtual program for you to do at home. There are a lot of companies who just haven't made a work experience program, and therefore you won't be able to get work experience with them. However, this is where cold outreach comes in, and this is where you email individual companies asking if you can have work experience on your own with them. And this works for smaller local companies who are less likely to have official programs, but it can also work with bigger companies as well. And the way it works is you find an email address for that company, you write up an email, send it to them, and hopefully they'll come back saying, yes, we can offer some work experience. This is a lot more time consuming than the first two, because with the first two, you just have to fill out the standard application and wait and hear. Whereas this one, you need to actively go out seeking companies, sending lots of emails, and each email has to be personalized, as I'm going to show you in a second. So this is a lot more time consuming. And also, you're likely to have lots of emails that aren't successful. When I was looking for work experience, I sent out emails to 3 different companies. 2 said they weren't able to, but 1 said they could. And that could be a different number for you. You could get the first company you email, they say yes, or you could have to email 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. It could be any of those numbers, but writing a really good email will really help your chances of them saying yes to your work experience. And if you're not sure where to get started, I'm now going to go on the computer and show you how to write an email to inquire for work experience, and I'll take you through the whole thing. And also there's a template down in the description which you can check, and you can copy and paste that if you want to. Okay, so starting to think about writing a cold outreach email can seem difficult, so I'm basically going to run you through how you can write a cold outreach email just to help you. So you can do it with me as I'm writing, or I'll attach a template in the description down below for you to copy and paste basically and add in what you want to add in. So first of all, you want to just start off with the address. That can be dear sir/madam if it's a generic email and you don't know whose it is, or it can be a specific name if you know who it is. And then just with regards to that, at the end of it you can put something like yours faithfully, and then put your name below that. If it's someone you don't know, put yours faithfully, or if you have someone's name, Joe Blogs or whatever, then you'd put in down here yours sincerely, or you can just put something like kind regards or thanks very much, whatever. It doesn't really matter, whatever you want to put there. Now the first line, you basically want to introduce yourself and explain the whole thing, because chances are they'll read the first thing, and if it's a lot of text they might just not bother reading it. So you basically want to make sure you get your full message in the first thing. So you could do something along those lines. I'm a year 12 student who is looking to gain some industry experience, and I'm writing to see if you could offer me any sort of work experience with, and then the company. So then after that you want a paragraph, maybe 4, 5, 6 lines, couple of sentences, which is research on the company, because it's really important that you're personalizing each email, which is why cold outreach takes a lot longer than just applying to a couple of virtual programs, because you have to research each company and then personalize each email. And they're going to be much less likely to give you work experience if it's just a generic email looking like I want work experience that you could have sent to 20 companies. So you want to personalize it with a bit of research. So I'm going to show you that here. Okay, so there you are. I've just quickly made a rough draft of something you could write, something along these lines. I've just made it all up just now, but that's the kind of thing you want to write. It's not perfect, but that's the sort of thing. Just saying that you know about the company, you read about this thing, you know about this thing, your values align with the company there. So that's just the sort of thing you want to say, and you'll have to research it differently for each company. And then for the next bit, I would recommend that you then say something about your skills, just to show that you are slightly qualified in this area and you're interested in it because you've done a few previous tasks in it. So something like, as you can see from my CV, I have, and then maybe 2 bullet points. So potentially you've already done step 2, you've already done some virtual programs. You can say something like completed virtual work experience with da da da. This involved analysing reports and working in teams to achieve a common goal, or something like that. And then maybe you've done a course as well, so completed a massive open online course by whoever it was by. And also, just an extra bonus tip in here, if you are mentioning a MOOC or a course you've done online, it's always good to name the company, and the same with work experience, always name the company. Or maybe it was a course by a university, but it's always good to name that, because when you get lots of big names in your CV and in your cover letters and emails, it just instantly pricks up here and they become more interested. And most likely I would probably date these as well, and then you could do a sentence here, and actually I'd probably say move that sentence from there to down here, just to leave those as bullet points, and then have the text down here. So these involve achieve a common goal on top of that, and then just a sentence or so just to summarize that. These involve analysing reports and working in teams to achieve a common goal. On top of that, I was able to learn more about the industry and hear from industry experts. And then this is where usually when I do it, I just reinstate what the work experience would do to me. Work experience would help me gain expertise specifically in the digital side, and that digital side is, again, linking back to the research you would have done here about artificial intelligence or whatever it is for your company, and then you're keen to find out what it's like working for a company. Again, you can slip in there some facts about it. You see how you don't necessarily need to do an exact fact like that. You could just say, I'm keen to find out what it's like working for your company. But it's just adding small things like that just shows that you've done your research. For example, you could say this is how many products they make a year, or this is how many employees they have. It just shows you've done a bit more research, just to add in a few of those. And then basically you want to just give your last sentence, which will be, thank you very much for taking the time to read this email. And then you want to attach your CV on top of this as well, because then again they can see your full experience, and then they're going to be even more likely to give you work experience if they've seen your CV and all the things you've done. And there you go, there's your email. Remember to attach your CV. You don't want to say that and then forget it. So yeah, this is about half a page is what you really want to be aiming for on a work experience thing. Normally with your cover letter for a company, that'll be for the actual apprenticeship, your cover letter will normally be about 3/4, maybe even a page. I'd recommend 3/4, but for this you only about need a half. So I just recommend nice introductory sentence, show your research about the company and show you're not just mass sending it to everyone. Highlight a few things from your CV in case they don't click on it, because sometimes they just won't click on it, and then it means they won't see any of your experience. So if you can just highlight that there, it means they have to see it, and then sort of just sum it up here. And hopefully this has been useful. If you had absolutely no idea what to write on cold outreach for work experience, hopefully you can either use this template, which I'll put in the description, or I've just given you some inspiration for what to write. Just bear in mind that you'll have to do quite a few of these to lots of different companies. It'll be very useful because you'll be getting work experience at companies that no one else is, which will help you stand out from the crowd. Step 4, in-person networking. Now, one better than cold outreach is in-person outreach. And what that means is, instead of emailing people you don't know and hoping for a response back, you actually go out and actively seek companies at events such as apprenticeship fairs or university open days. Now, this is the most challenging of the 4 steps. because you can't just stay at home and send emails or stay at home and apply for programs. You actually have to go out to events, you have to talk to people, you have to make connections, however it is the most valuable. Because once you go to these events and you talk to people, you then have these connections which not only will help you get work experience, but is also really valuable for the future to have a bigger network with people you can ask questions to. For example, I went to a university open day, and you might think, what's the point of that? I want to do a degree apprenticeship. Well, remember, degree apprenticeships are based at university for part of the year because you have to study for your degree as well. So nowadays, a lot of universities at their open days are inviting employers in to do a degree apprenticeship talk. So I went to the degree apprenticeship talk, and there were 2 employers there who were talking about the course. So after the talk, I went up to them and had a chat to them, and both of these people ended up saying, if you want work experience, we're happy to offer you work experience. And in the end, I took up one of them on that offer, and the other one I wasn't able to.
Hold on, let me just jump in here. I'm editing it now, and when I say I wasn't able to take up on that offer, what I mean is I messed up at the networking event at the open day. So I spoke to both of them. They both said, get in touch if you want work experience. And then I went home, and then I got home and I realised I have no way of contacting them. I didn't ask for their email, I didn't ask for their LinkedIn, I didn't ask for anything. And one of them, I knew his name. I'd written it down in my notes while they were talking. And then the other one, I sort of knew what the first name was just about. The surname, I had no idea. And the first name, I didn't know how to, I knew what it was. I knew how it sounded, but I didn't know how to spell it. So this was an open day on the Saturday. I then spent the whole of the Sunday and then the Monday trying to find the emails of these 2 people somehow, because although the first guy, I knew his name, I couldn't find him anywhere. I went through the entire company website, going through every public document I could find, and then eventually on Monday, after spending the whole day of school just looking through documents to try and find this guy's email, I eventually found his email, and that meant I could ask for work experience, and that's where I got my work experience from him. However, the other person, who I sort of knew the first name but not how to spell it, I ended up never finding out her name, because it's not much to go on, a first name that you can't even spell. So my advice that I've learned from that is basically, when you do these in-person networking events, you meet these people, and when they say you can have work experience if you want, actually take their emails so that you can take them up on the offer. Otherwise, you'll end up like me. You'll have a first name you don't really know. You're searching it over on LinkedIn. You're trying to find employee lists, and it doesn't really get you anywhere. So that's an important one to remember. Remember to ask for their email or their LinkedIn, something like that.
And in the end, I took up one of them on that offer, and the other one I wasn't able to. But because I'd gone to that event and I'd gone up, talked to them, asked questions, seemed really interested and made connections with them, they were then happy to offer work experience.
Okay, so usually companies will have some sort of events page. So I'm going to use JLR as an example just to show you. So this is their early careers page, and down here they basically have an events calendar of all their events. So you can go through here and look, see what events they're going to, and that's where you can go to these events, meet the employees, talk to them, find out about work experience. So for example, if you lived in the Midlands, then you could have a look at going to this National Apprenticeship show. And it shows like this, where they'll usually have quite a lot of people there. So obviously the main ones are JLR, but then there's also West Midlands Police, Severn Trent, Royal Air Force, EY, BBC. So that's how you find events and find employers who you can talk to. Okay, so to summarise, there are 4 steps you can use to get work experience: conventional programs, virtual programs, cold outreach, and in-person networking. The first two, you can class those as one-to-many, because basically they're official programs that the company runs for a cohort of people that they'll do every year or a couple of times per year, which means most likely the biggest companies will be one-to-many, so you'll have to either do conventional programs or virtual programs to get them. And usually if a company does run a conventional program, for example PWC, you're not going to be able to cold outreach to them and ask for work experience just for yourself, because then they'll just tell you to go back to the one-to-many, the conventional program basically. However, some companies just don't have any official programs like this, which means you have to come down to the one-to-one approaches, and that means cold emailing them and in-person networking. So it means that by using these two methods, it means you can get work experience with companies that no one else is, because whereas everyone's always going to have the same companies that everyone's done the same virtual program, if you've been cold outreaching companies that don't run official programs, it means you're going to be ahead of the game, because you're going to have names on there that no one else is going to have, so it's going to really stand out in your CV. So when choosing which method, it depends on the company. Do they run an official program or virtual program? No, then come down to these methods at the bottom. Or maybe you're restricted by location and you can't really get anywhere, in which case you can focus on cold outreach and virtual programs. Or maybe it's because of your age and you're not able to go to any university events because you're too young. Well, then you can focus on virtual programs, because on SpringPod a lot of the activities you can be 13 plus, so you can do those instead. So really just use all of these four methods where you need to, and you will be able to get work experience by using these.
What to do on your work experience. So now that you've done those 4 steps and you've secured your work experience place, what's the most important thing to do on the work experience? Well, a lot of advice people give is ask lots of questions and be inquisitive, and that is extremely important. However, I would add one more piece of advice onto that, and that is, after you've asked those questions and once you've been inquisitive, write down the answers, because you're not going to remember it in 6 months' time when you come to apply. So every day after my work experience, I would write down on a notepad all of the things I learned, write a diary of the activities I did, because that is all extremely useful 6 months down the line when you come to writing your application. How to show off your work experience. So after you've done your work experience and you come to applying to the degree apprenticeships, this is where you can really show off what you've learned. So I'm going to go onto the computer now and show you how you can show it off within a CV.
So after you've done your work experience, if you've followed my advice, you're going to have a work experience diary, which basically includes all the activities that you did at that work experience. And this is the best way of getting into your CV, and this is what I mean when I say you need to personalize your CV. This is what I mean specifically. So this is what usually people would say: completed a day's work experience on site at HS2 bridge project, date it, and then they would just leave it like that. But then you're really missing out being able to explain all the skills and all the activities you've learned. So once you put that in your CV, what you're then going to do is do a bullet point of the activities. You're going to say something like, this involved, and then we're going to bullet point down some of the key activities, not necessarily all of them, but maybe 4 or 5. That will be really useful. And now, how do we know which ones we want to bullet point? Well, this is where it comes to the job description. So a good thing to look at, 2 really important things to look at in job descriptions like this, is what will the apprentice be doing, but then also the skills they're required. So hopefully we'll be able to show that we have these skills, and then on top of that we can also show that we've actually already done some of these responsibilities, and that's something that looks really good to the employer if the activities that you will be doing, you've actually already done some of them. So for example, the first one is assisting in creating detailed drawings and plans. We can straight away take from our diary and put into here, learn Fusion 360, and then you can put that straight into there as a bullet point, and obviously you can change the words, spend a bit more time on it, refining the words, making it sound better, but we'll say something about CAD for that one, and again, it ties into these skills as well. So straight away, that's IT skills that you're able to tick off basically. So let's look at another one, collaborating. So we worked in a team, that's a good one. And again, that ticks off the skill of team working, potentially communication skills. Travelling across the UK to conduct basic site surveys, so surveying, and then also research and analysis. So conducted a survey of, this was one activity we might have done. And now that ticks off doing survey and research and analysis. And actually, I would just get the word analysis in there just to tick it off with one of the graduates. And analysed the difference between the required dimensions and the measured dimensions. And there straight away you're getting in that word analyze and analysis there on top of surveys and survey there, which is good. Okay, another one, assisting project managers across a variety of commercial construction projects. And this is where shadowing the principal engineer during discussion with the contractor. That's a good one to put in there because you have been assisting that engineer by being there. And also referring to commercial construction projects, by saying technical terms like contractor, it shows how you know how construction operates in terms of you have a client, you have a contractor, you might have a consultant, a local authority, and there's all sorts of processes involved with who has to do what. So just by including technical terms like that, it shows that you know a lot about how construction sites work. And similarly with the Fusion 360 or some sort of CAD up here, you could add in a few technical terms about how you did this certain part of rail, or you looked at the parapet of a bridge on CAD, and that shows that you know what a parapet is. So where you can in here get in technical terms, for example catch pits, that's a technical term that you managed to get in there, and that just shows that you've really researched the whole industry and you have a lot of knowledge. So another one's taking full responsibility for minor projects and programs, so that's basically taking the lead, so taking charge there. And there you go. So there it is, taking charge in a task to organise level data on Excel documents. You know what level data is, that's another technical term. An Excel document, again, that links back to IT skills. So those are a good couple of bullet points you could get, and then straight away you've ticked off this. So basically what the goal is when you're applying to a company, you want to make sure somewhere in your CV, cover letter and application forms, you say you've done all of this, which will usually come from work experience, and then you also want to make sure you've done every single one of these. So at the moment we've got communication from working in a team, we've got IT from Excel and CAD, we've got, you could argue attention to detail from CAD, but you want to explain these. You don't want them to infer he must have attention to detail because he's done CAD. You want to say this required attention to detail to ensure the precision of the rails or something. Obviously you'd work on it, that's not perfect, but you do that. And then again, with organisation skills, you don't want it to be inferred. You want to, for example, if you took charge in something, say I had to organise this. And then presentation skills, we can use this if we want to present a design. It really just depends how much room you have in your CV with how many of these that you want to list really, but you can get quite a lot of these skills and all of these activities from the skills and activities you've done from your work experience, which is why it's really important to write down this diary, because then when it comes to applications you can just copy and paste into it like I've done, and then you've got everything ready to go.
Now, in interviews, this is another place where you can really show off your work experience.
So the most important thing in preparing for interviews is making sure you can answer these sort of questions. Tell me about a time when you worked as a team, tell me about a time when you led a project. All sorts of those questions. You need to prepare for as many of those as you can. And again, this is where the work experience, if you've kept a diary of all your activities, in preparation for the interview, you can match these up to the questions and then you already have an answer memorized. So, for example, tell me about a time you worked as a team, you can straight away assign that one in there. And then one they actually ask quite frequently is, tell me about a time when you had to have a difficult conversation. So that's where you can put in something like that. And usually this kind of question is basically around, if it could be worded differently about what would you do if someone wasn't following the rules, or it could be like this: tell me about a time when you had to have a difficult conversation. And basically they're trying to get you to say that the rules are more important, health and safety is more important, so you'd deal with the situation even though it was difficult. So that's a very common question, especially in construction sort of jobs. And then that's linked again to following a procedure, because a lot of these companies want to make sure you're always following health and safety. So you can have that in there, but you wouldn't just say I listened to a safety briefing. You could say I learned about the safety procedures of the site, including the thumbs up policy and the clear zone of the plant. Plant is like machinery, like diggers. So quite a lot of sites have a rule where you shouldn't go walk in the working radius of a plant without giving them a thumbs up, so they've seen you and they're not going to hit into you and injure you. And then you can put another example here: tell me about time when you led a project. Tell me a time you worked really hard on something. Maybe you could use this example again, taking charge in a task to organize level data, or you could say you worked really hard learning Fusion 360 and you're really proud of your progress or something. And then time when you came up with a creative solution. Again, that could link back to where's the group task where you had to overcome an obstacle. So it's basically, if you've written up your diary properly, it means when you come to interview practice, you've straight away got a bank of answers which you can use for these sort of questions, and they'll really help you.
And then another thing about interviews, the way you can use it in an interview is just mentioning the big company names as much as you can. So for example, if they ask you to tell me about yourself and your experience, you can say you've done work experience with this company and this company, and even just mentioning that will usually prompt another question about that, and then the interviewer gets more interested in you. You get to explain more about your skills and experience because they're asking extra questions because you've intrigued them about your work experience. So something that I would do is, at the end of a tell me about yourself question, after explaining briefly my main work experience, I would also say I've also done programs with Siemens. And then the next question would always be, oh, what work experience did you do with Siemens? And then that would give me a chance to talk about the activities I'd done with them, such as writing a report and pitching a location for social housing, that sort of thing. And then straight away there, and that's how you answer them. You answer them with activities, and then they link back to qualities. So me saying I wrote a report, then that links to me having writing skills. Me saying I pitched a location, that links back to me having presentation skills. So that's how you want to use this interview questions. You think about the examples, then you think about the activities you've done in the work experience, and then you think how they link back to skills. So that is how you use work experience in the interview. So congratulations, you've come to the end of the Work Experience for Degree Apprenticeships full guide. My number one piece of advice for you is make sure you implement these. Don't just watch this video and then turn off and don't implement these. I've given you strategies that you can use straight away. If you haven't already, go on SpringPod, go on Speakers for Schools right now. Promise yourself to write at least 2 cold emails by the end of the week. Book 1 event that you're going to go to in the next 2 months. Implement these strategies, and once you have work experience, I would say your chance of success in the degree apprenticeship application process goes up 2, 3, even 5 times with the experiences, activities, and then the big names that you can have on your CV. So good luck for the future and get started with some work experience.